This is my review of the Transformers The Last Night movie, the fifth installment in the Michael Bay series of Transformers live action movies. I just saw the movie. I got an evening screening, June 21st, 2017. Today's already June 22nd, obviously, early in the morning. This is going to be more of like a commentary type of review. It's going to be my usual stream of consciousness type of thing, just ranting or raving about stuff that I've seen in the video, just commenting here and there. No really coherent flow of discussion, just me talking about the movie in a very casual way. All right, so let's get started by saying that heading into the movie, I was expecting, well, four new writers, awesome writers, led by Akiva Goldsman. Actually, he just had the story, and then was written by the three other guys, Ken Nolan and two other guys I forgot. Decorated writers, and I was a little bit hoping this would be something special. But then again, I said it's going to be a Michael Bay film. He's going to have full reign over the creative process of this movie. So I decided to leave my brain at home and just sort of enjoy this movie as though it was just done to promote the toys. And that's exactly what I did. And I went to the movie and I was prepared to say, I was rehearsing in my mind how this commentary or this movie review would turn out. I was about ready to go on and straightforward hate on Michael Bay and the latest movie, and was prepared to give the movie a 2 out of 10. I know I'm being mean. But after seeing the movie, well, it's not great. It's definitely a bad movie, but it was not terrible. Now let me explain further. Was it watchable? Yes. Was it for Transformers hardcore G1 fans? Definitely not. Is it for movie fans? Transformers movie, live action movie fans? Maybe. Is it for the general public who have no idea who Transformers are? Yes. And is it for just the casual Transformers fan? Definitely. I was a bit surprised that I didn't hate this movie too much. I did like it a little bit. It wasn't entirely great, but it wasn't terrible. Again, as I say that, let me talk about the details. Very simple, basic plot. Beat the bad guy, beat the world-ending event, and save the day, and alongside do some cool action scenes. That's exactly what Michael Bay did with this film. This was going to be his last film. Take it with a grain of salt. And what he did was combine all the best-selling elements of Transformers 1, 2, 3, and 4 into this movie and sort of make make use of the existing mythology of what he thought would have been, and just put his own spin of the mythology of Transformers. And he took some bits and pieces here and there of what we've had over the last 40 years of Transformers, and 40 years of Transformers, and basically just rehash it into something that he thought would be a cool secret origin of Transformers, and at the same time incorporate everything that he's done in the previous four films that he thought were cool, that audiences thought were cool, and put them in this movie. So it's basically more of the same film, more of the same Transformers film. It's good versus evil. It's focusing now, and in this movie in particular, focused a lot on the people. They have a lot of scenes that they're looking for something, they're searching for something, they painstakingly do all that. There is some humor involved. There's all that scenes where there's a low angle shot, there's a close-up shot, there's the falling action scenes where everybody's falling, there's chases of these spaceships going around, there's interstellar, let's like from in space, and jumping here and there. There's use of the military, there's use of useless scenes, there's a lot of everything of the previous film. Bad dialogue, good dialogue, tear-jerking dialogue, crazy bad humor dialogue. Lots of great acting, lots of inappropriate great acting, like unnecessary overacting, lots of action, obviously, Michael Bay action, lots of explosions, lots of this and that, lots of transforming sequences that don't make any sense. um, a lot of Transformers out of character. Oh my god. But then again, what I liked about this movie is that it was so easy for me to get past all of that nonsense because I was so focused on the characters, on the humans. The movie turned out to be more of a human movie, with the Transformers just being part of the background. It could have been a war movie. It could have been an alien movie. You know, it could have been not Transformers. It could have been something else. But it was amazing because I didn't sort of get bored in the film. I think that's a good thing. I think that should be a compliment. I was focused so much on the drama going around the people that I learned to just suspend reality and to suspend disbelief on the craziness or some of the unnecessary scenes, some of the incredible scenes, the unbelievable scenes that happen in the movie, because I was so focused on the people. The characters played by Laura Haddock and Mark Wahlberg, and you get involved in their characters. That it's easy to just, okay, there's Transformers doing their thing, their nonsense bit and all that, and that's what I felt about the movie. Okay, so the movie is basically a continuation of all the four movies. It wraps up a lot of what had happened in the past. We even get there's a callback to every single aspect in previous films, like the Witwican clan, as they call it. Anthony Hopkins is a descendant of that, the Witwican. And it harkens back to Witwicky. We get to see a picture of Sam Witwicky. It ties up the first movie. We get a scene of the Dark of the Moon spaceship on the moon as the big Cybertron, the shell of Cybertron passes over the moon. Age of Extinction, we get to see Lockdown's ship that's being used by the Autobots, and it's sort of a continuity from Age of Extinction because Prime goes out to space to find his maker, and he comes back, and Mark Wahlberg is still there as an inventor. That's the continuity. We get to see some of the Transformers that what's his character's name that they built back in Age of Extinction, the character by Stanley Tucci. And incidentally, Stanley Tucci is in the movie. He plays Merlin, amazingly, as a flashback, as how the first Transformers landed on Earth. And it's all that. It's a lot of, we got Barricade, we got a lot of the car scenes, we got a lot of the spaceships in Chicago. Michael Bay seems to love that ship that Sentinel Prime's Decepticons used to chase. He loves that. He keeps using it in Age of Extinction, and he uses it here. There's a lot of ropes, wires, connecting things and that. Those huge ropes we saw in Age of Extinction. What else? We get some humor. Bumblebee still can't speak. Unbelievable. We get crass language. It's supposedly for kids, but it's PG-13 because you use a lot of words inappropriate for children below 13. So a lot of elements from the previous films really, again, as I said, the falling scenes, the gunfights, the military. I mean, he used the heck out of the military. Submersibles, halo jumping. You get fighter jets. You get the what do you call those twin rotor helicopters? I forgot. But you get to they didn't use C-130s. They used previous characters except Sam Witwicky and Tyrese Gibson, because Tyrese couldn't film because he was shooting Fast 8, so that's fine. So all of that. Going back to the people, and as I said, this was a story about the inventor, and how he wants to save the world. And I thought it was okay. There were a lot of dialogue that I didn't think I liked, but it was okay. Mark Wahlberg's character, again, he could have been a Marine, and fans would have accepted it. He didn't have to be an inventor, but they made him. Now the new characters, Professor Laura Haddock plays Professor Wimbley, and she's like a bombshell. I mean, I can't I don't know, but she's supposed to be an Oxford professor with a PhD, and she's just very smart and all that, and she's a bombshell. Okay, suspension of disbelief. Okay, again, and I liked her character. I mean, I like all the female lead characters in all the movies and all the Transformers, and I liked her especially. I thought she was great. I thought the acting was crazy good. She was funny at certain points, and she's like the Megan Fox of this movie, and we get Anthony Hopkins. She was the best. Absolutely amazing in this film, and a lot of the scenes were delivered very, very nicely. Anthony Hopkins, absolutely loved the guy. There was just one scene, like, he didn't want to go with the submarine. Apparently, both Mark Wahlberg and Laura Haddock had to go through Cade and Wembley. Yeager and Wembley had to go through submarine just to go through the submerged ship of the Knights, and he didn't want to go there. And somehow he ends up in the final battle scene in Stonehenge, and I was like, okay, maybe they didn't have time to shoot his scenes in the submarine, whatever. Anyway, so a funny thing, he dies in the movie, and it was great. The guy was amazing. Then we get this another character, this new guy, his assistant, Yeager's assistant, and that guy's like the new Revenge of the Fallen. The roommate, Sam's roommate. That he's sort of the comic relief that doesn't really deliver on the comedy. I thought he was unnecessary. I honestly didn't think if you deleted him in the whole movie, it wouldn't have mattered. But okay, the more the merrier. Then we get Isabelle Monaire's character, Isabella. I thought she was great. I thought the acting was amazing. I thought her character was great, but again, might have been unnecessary. I didn't think they needed her to be there. Having kids on the movie is great. It makes it family friendly, but I didn't think she was necessary. And a lot of her scenes were like overly dramatic, unnecessarily dramatic, but she delivered on the acting. So I was like, it was fun to watch her. But again, the dramatic scenes were absolutely unnecessary. And half the time she's in tears, and I'm like, poor little girl. They had her crying all the time, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then you get Lennox, you get Morshower, and I especially like the character of Lennox, Colonel Lennox. He's the one. This dialogue really keeps you in the movie. It like sort of summarizes what's going on. It's so easy to get lost with all the action, and then Lennox comes in and says, so what we got to do, we got to do this, we got to do that, and it's like, oh, right, that's what they had to do. Oh, okay, they had to go there and there, and that's the character. Those are the lines delivered by, and I really appreciated that. That was amazing. Who else? We get the new Sector 7, there's always a bunch of soldiers after the Transformers. I don't know why. Michael Bay always uses that in all his films. A bunch of paramilitary people always hunting Transformers. And this time we get the TRF. Transformers R Force or something. Recon Force or Recovery Force, whatever. TRF. And yeah, there's that. They hunt down Yeager in that final battle when they're fighting against Decepticons and Quintessa. They sort of side with Yeager because Yeager does this speech, and then they decide they're not going to be TRF anymore. I thought that was okay, and it's funny, but it was okay. There's a lot of drama scenes that are unnecessary. And to me, the whole movie was like, the reason it kind of got sold to me was because I felt like it was a kid playing with his Transformers toys. And he was inventing a story. Oh, okay, Optimus Prime meets, and then suddenly Barricade comes out. Oh, okay, and then we have to find the scepter. We have to find this ancient artifact. Oh, okay, and then the knights come in, and it's like when you were a kid. When I was a kid, when my brother, we would play Transformers and GI Joe just like that. We would invent the story on the fly, and that's how I felt the movie was. They just invented the story on the fly, and it was like, oh, we got to do that, and I was like, I could totally relate with it. I could totally relate. I was like me playing when I was a kid. Oh, okay. That's why it kind of saw. I know it's such a shallow reason to appreciate the film, but you know, cartoons were meant to sell the toys. That whole 1986 movie was so that they could sell new toys. And let's face it, these Transformers movie, well, it was really to make money. But more also, because it was based off Hasbro. Hasbro was the one pushing it. They wanted to sell their toys, their merchandise. And that's essentially what it does. And if you're just a newcomer to the Transformers universe, you've seen the movies, and it's like, oh man, you really want to buy the toys. Okay, so enough of that. So basically, they prevent it, the whole story was from coming from the previous movie. Quintessa, she was the goddess that created sort of Cybertron and the Transformers. He wanted to recall Optimus Prime because he needed the Optimus Prime to do her bidding. That's why he got locked. That's why she got locked down to do the dirty job. And when he failed, Optimus decides to go see her, and she says, "Oh, okay, you must destroy the Earth. Why? Because Earth happens to be Unicron." And a bunch of knights, those 12 knights, rebelled from me, and they stole my scepter of creation and hid it in the earth. I want you to get that scepter of creation so I can use it to reform Cybertron and destroy Unicron. And obviously they stop her from doing so because Laura, the last descendant of Merlin, has control over the scepter. They managed to get her on board to control the scepter, and they stop Quintessa, Optimus Prime, and Megatron battle because Megatron sides with Quintessa. And incidentally, Optimus Prime, Megatron, and the Decepticons, and to a certain extent the Transformers, were just background characters. The main focus were on the people. And that's why you got so involved. That's why I got so involved in the movie. Okay. Now, that whole idea of the Earth being the Unicron, I wish there was more backstory to it. I wish they had told more about it, how two titans battled each other and Unicron lost and he became the Earth over the millennia, and then Cybertron became Cybertron and gave birth to Transformers. And okay, that didn't happen. It was just Morshower and Lennox talking about it. It was like, if you're unlettered in the Transformers lore, you'd think, Earth is really Unicron? Come on, man. And if you are a big G1 fan and you're hardcore, you don't want a mythology change, like if you're a big Marvel Comics fan and you think the cinematic universe is a bastardization of the comic books, you're not going to like it. But to me, it's not such a foreign idea. If you remember Transformers Prime, which I was a big fan of. If you're not a big fan of Transformers Prime, you'd hate this. But I thought I remembered that, and the Earth being Unicron in that series, it was presented there, and so this whole idea of Earth being Unicron wasn't such an implausible idea. And I think Michael Bay got that idea from here and there. And he got some snippets of mythology, like I was saying a while ago. He got that mythology, I think, from Transformers Prime, and I thought it was okay. It wasn't so appalling to me. It wasn't so unpalatable. I thought it was okay. Let's talk about some of the scenes that I liked and I thought were incredible that I did not like. Because basically that's what, let me just finish it, my thought. Basically, they stop it. They stop Quintessa from destroying Unicron and recreating Cybertron, and she just lands back on Earth. And there's one final credit scene. It's not actually an end credit scene. The first minute of credits take place, and then a final scene happens, so you don't have to wait that long. Quintessa is in human form, and he meets a bunch of people studying the horns of Unicron, because as Cybertron approaches, the horns start appearing. 6 horns start appearing on Earth, and those are Unicron horns. And Quintessa in human form tells the scientist she doesn't want to be touched, but I can tell you how to defeat, how to kill Unicron. and how to kill him. And then the guy says, "Who? Unicron?" And that sets up, I suppose, Transformers 6. So it's going to be Unicron. Anyway, so a lot of that's basically the movie, and I thought it was okay. Focusing on the people. Just to reiterate my fact, it was a human movie, not so much a Transformers movie. There's a lot of action. There's a ton of Transformers action, and yet the focus were on the people. Okay, some of the scenes that I thought were incredible, that I thought maybe was okay. There were a lot of non-transforming Transformers. For instance, Cogman. Cogman, everybody thought he was going to transform to an Aston Martin. He doesn't. He's actually, there's a lot of Star Wars ideas in this movie, which I will get to shortly. One of them is Cogman. Cogman plays a British ninja bot C-3PO. Essentially, he's a C-3PO of the film with a schizophrenic sociopath mentality, that he's British. He's like the servant, the butler of Anthony Hopkins' character. And he's like a ninja bot. And yeah, so he's like the C-3PO. And he does not transform into anything. He drives an Aston Martin, and eventually he changes cars. It takes Anthony Hopkins away from the trouble and drives a Pagani Huayra. So he's a driver transformer. So apparently you can be called a transformer and not transform. Okay, what else? They ride a submarine. That's sort of Wembley's character, when she touches, activates. So the military says it's a transformer, but it does not transform into anything. The submarine just takes them to the old ship, and it's like a vessel. It's like a Cybertronian vessel disguised as a submarine. It doesn't transform, so whatever. Okay, back in the olden days, there was a dragon. I guess this is Dragonstorm, and he is supposed, and he fights again in the end scene, because apparently he's made up of 12 knights. The original 12 knights who come to Earth and steal Quintessa's scepter, and they sort of hibernate. They help the knights, and when Merlin dies, they hibernate with Merlin, and sort of it's all 12 of them. They morph into Dragonstorm. I thought that was okay, acceptable. I just didn't like the fact that Dragonstorm was sort of made up of metal sticks, like fur. I wish it was more like robotic, like Grimlock robotic. And anyway, so 12 knights, giant robot knights, transform into the dragon. It doesn't even make sense, because the dragon doesn't look like it's made of 12 different. But you suspend disbelief and you just move on. Okay, there's a dragon. We get it. Okay, more Star Wars scenes. The drones that were sent by the TRF after Cade, they're shaped like TIE fighters. Come on. Everybody in the theater was like, oh, it's Star Wars. So maybe they were trying to compliment Star Wars. Maybe it was like that Nolan and Snyder thing, that they were doing Batman and Star Wars. Oh, sorry, not Nolan. J.J. Abrams and Snyder thing. They were trying to put bits of each other's movies and whatever. The Batmobile and the Millennium Falcon and Batman Gotham, they put Star Wars. Anyway, whatever. But there are a lot of Star Wars. And Squeaks was like the R2-D2 that packed a lot. And obviously he's like the BB-8 R2-D2 of the film. And at this point, you get to see that with all of Michael Bay's recycling of the previous movie scenes, you get to think that he's running out of ideas. I mean, that Unicron thing and Quintessa, and that's his last big idea. But everything else, he's run out of ideas. He had to get from Star Wars. So, yeah. Squeaks, that mini bot that Isabella repaired. Okay, he does the job. He blows up a big cannon. He's like the BB-8 of them all, but he wasn't really essential. He was just there as a cute robot. And get this, he does not transform into a Vespa. Nope, does not transform whatsoever. He's just a cute robot. Okay. Then they bring back, well, not Brains, is the other guy. Wheelie. Wheelie apparently is back. Apparently he did not die in Dark of the Moon. In Age of Extinction, he went on sabbatical or something. But he's back here, Wheelie. And I'm surprised Hasbro has not repacked the Legends Wheelie or the Deluxe Wheelie or something like that. That was surprising. We get to see Hound. He transforms into that truck, but he did not have these guns. It was actually more of like a van with a red cross, but they didn't do that. We get Drift in his new form as a Mercedes, but he was more black than red. He was all black with red highlights, so it'll be interesting to see how Takara redoes that. Hot Rod was supposedly the new Bumblebee. He was cool. The Altmo robot was cool. The only thing bad about him is his voice. He was French, trying to be French at least, or that was a little bit annoying. And he was the one who sort of hijacked or kidnapped Wembley, Professor Wembley. And he, as a Transformer, is pretty cool, but the personality with that French voice, oh, that sucked. And he had this gun that was interesting. It was like it shoots out the time displacement bubble. He shoots and time slows down for a particular area. Kind of reminds me of that X-Men when Cyclops was still alive and was recruiting that little girl, that girl from Australian mutant who could make time bubbles. Oh, I forgot her name. Anyway, it was sort of something like that. He could time bubble, but I mean, if he could do that, why did he do that to Quintessa? Stop Quintessa in time, and it's like, anyway, whatever. Optimus Prime becomes evil, obviously, because he's under the spell of Quintessa, and he becomes Nemesis Prime. Oh, I was like, I didn't even pay attention to that. Yeah, sure, whatever. It didn't, like, oh, Nemesis Prime. Yeah, okay, whatever. It was like Michael Bay trying to do more of the mythology, trying to impress fans, but it wasn't just working. Barricade actually played a very significant role there. He was always Megatron's sidekick. He was like the new Soundwave. Apparently he's alive and well. He didn't die, and I thought he died in Dark of the Moon, whatever. Or yeah. So he was the new stooge of Megatron, and he was cool. He was amazing, and I thought the car looked much longer than this, and he was amazing. It looked black, more black and less blue than this one, but I thought it was great. Megatron, great. He was the badass Megatron we all come to know. Negotiated with the humans to release some of his troops, which, I mean, was crazy troops. I'll get that in a bit. But talking about Megatron, he was badass. But again, he played a secondary role. He was like, he wasn't really a main enemy. Again, he was just like a stooge. He didn't have to be there, actually. Now, he made a request. He was going to help find the scepter, and the human said, okay, we'll give you your troops back if you help us find the scepter. And it was these oddball characters. Like, I guess these were the Transformers that were made by Stanley Tucci's character in China back in the... And there's this weird fella that turned into a motorcycle. He dies after one battle with the Autobots. We get Onslaught, turns into a truck. Doesn't really do much. He dies as well in that battle with the Autobots. The Autobots escape the junkyard. Incidentally, that junkyard, I thought that was great. That was the hiding place where for Autobots in the beginning, much like what we have in Robots in Disguise. Great job. Then we get this guy that looked like Shockwave. I forgot his name. I think his name is Dreadbot. What weird names. Dreadbot, he turns, I think he's in the new Starscream, he turns into that raptor, but he doesn't do much. And then one of the requests that Megatron had was Berserker. But the humans decide not to release him. If we just show him in shackles, the movie just shows him in shackles, and he's berserking, and then they never show him again. I was like, what? Okay. Again, there's a lot of unnecessary scenes, but again, you learn to move past that because you're focusing on the humans. Dinobots. Yes, we get to see the Dinobots. We only get to see Grimlock, and we get to see Slug. For 5 minutes. 5 darn minutes. Even Grimlock's scene was just like a minute of useless, annoying bit that he swallowed the car and Mark Wahlberg trying to spit out that car. That's it, that trailer. That's his entire scene. And then him and Slug, they make an appearance as the Autobots try to escape the junkyard. They stop the cars or stop some of the Decepticons from pursuing. That was it. We never see the Dinobots ever again. Which there's enough room on Lockdown ship to bring them to Stonehenge, and they could have done some real damage against Quintessa, and they never use it. And I'm thinking Michael Bay decides, Dinobots are so last year, so 2 years ago, focusing on the dragons. Let's just not use the Dinobots. I was like, okay, whatever. So I was like, okay. So I talked about Dragonstorm, the dragon that merged. Then there was a combiner, apparently out of nowhere. A combiner Decepticon appears, Infernicon. So apparently there is a toy coming out, a repaint of Predacus, whatever. Our Abominus, a repaint of the Abominus toy, the Legends. We're gonna release it as an Infernicus. Apparently there is Infernicus, and he's like that dragon. So 5 bots combine into, they meld into like a blob type, like a huge minotaur like bigger robot. And it's not even like they combine like this. No, they just, and that's the, oh, I was like, okay, Michael Bay has no concept of what combiners are. And I was like, okay, suspension of disbelief, move on. And I was like, okay. Anyway, so we get that, and we get a lot of action scenes. My daughter, Chloe, she watched with her, and she was like, God, the movie's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I was like, there's so much action scenes. And to her, it's like, I was describing to her, like, okay, we gotta go from this point to that point, and this is how we're gonna do it. We go dodge. Oh, rocket. It's such a short distance. Oh, we gotta get it. And it takes forever for them to get there. And it's like, and again, as I said, it was like when we were kids, that's how we would play with Transformers. They would be, Michael Bay just tried to squeeze as much action scenes in that little scene as possible. And it was I was like thinking, oh my God, this better be his last film. Okay, also, one more thing that was always present, if you remember, Rosie Huntington Whiteley had a lot of change of clothes. He was held hostage, and yet she was able to change her clothes. Same thing happened with Professor Wembley. In the middle, she was wearing a dress, a cocktail dress, when she was abducted by her car. Her car was like an old English black car that rescanned a Lamborghini, whatever. Hot Rod. That's his name. I know, it's so annoying, but move on. Suspension of disbelief and move on. Anyway, she was wearing a dress, and then they go find clues for that scepter. Again, it's like finding those glasses that Witwicky had. They try to find a scepter, and then immediately in the final battle, she's wearing like a sweater and high-waisted jeans. And I was like, okay, so she packed some change of clothes going to Stonehenge? I never saw that. She went to the submarine and she wore her cocktail dress. When they get out of the submarine, she's in her jeans and sweater, and I was like, what? And again, that whole alien ship, that was like Age of Extinction lockdown ship. Oh, Michael Bay just ran out of ideas and had to reuse a lot of stuff. Okay, at this point in time, I'd probably now talk about moving on. Okay, we've seen the Michael Bay films. There's a new director for the Bumblebee film, and there was one scene that sort of gave hints to that film. The character of Anthony Hopkins, Sir Edmund, talks to Bumblebee and says, "Hey, Bumblebee, remember me? I was only but a little boy when I met you, but I hope you remember me." And then Bumblebee says, "No, I don't remember you." So that sort of sets up the Bumblebee movie a little bit. So Transformers 6, I'm guessing, has to do with Unicron and Quintessa on Earth. And Cybertron is sort of like a moon to Earth. And Optimus Prime can go back and forth from, because in the last scene, all the Autobots, it's time to go home, they go to Cybertron. And they sort of rebuild. The whole idea was Prime said we have to rebuild both worlds and forge a peace pact between our races. And I'm guessing the next movie should have Cybertron there and would have Quintessa here and trying to kill Unicron, whatever. I'm hoping at this point in time it's no longer Michael Bay. I'm hoping maybe it's Steven Spielberg who'd get out of his executive director seat and just direct. Man, that guy has skills and he doesn't want to take over. He gives Michael Bay so much freedom. Maybe I'm open like anybody but Michael Bay. J.J. Abrams would be great. If he could do it, I'd love to see his take on Transformers. At this point in time, it just had enough of Michael Bay, and if Mel Gibson or Dirty Harry, what's his name, Clint Eastwood decides to direct the Transformers film, I'd be so okay with it. Joss Whedon, oh my goodness, he'd do great work with the Transformers franchise. Even Anthony Edwards, what's his name? Gareth Edwards, not Anthony Edwards. Gareth Edwards, Rogue One director. I thought he'd probably do a good job. Patty Jenkins, Wonder Woman director. Oh man, maybe she could do it. But no, not Josh Trank, please. Joel Schumacher, no. Christopher Nolan, no freaking way. No, 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 no. Snyder, definitely no, 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 no. Okay, but yeah, let's hope for a really awesome director. My money, if Josh Whedon decides to do it, Gareth Edwards, Patty Jenkins, or J.J. Abrams, I'm all for it. Okay, so with that, perhaps I'd like to end this little extremely long commentary on the Transformers The Last Night movie by sort of reiterating the immortal words of Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself, during Celebration 2017. And he says, it doesn't matter whether it's a good story in films, movies today, these days. It doesn't matter if it's a good story or a bad story. What matters is it gonna make money, or if it's gonna make money? And that's just the way things are, sadly. And this movie will probably go on to make $1 billion worldwide, 100 million in the US, 100 million here, 100 million, 500 million in China, I don't know, in Europe, 200 million, whatever. But sadly, Mark Hamill was right, is right. And there you go, folks. That's my uber lengthy commentary / pseudo review of the latest live action Transformers movie, Transformers The Last Night. Thanks for watching.